Welcome, everybody, and welcome to season 2. Yes, it's only been a week. Yes, it is a completely new thing we are doing. We are now talking about football movies as well. Jeff, happy Friday. How you doing?
I'm good. Happy Friday. Let's go Niners. Just
Yes,
traded for
sir.
Randy Gregory. I'm excited. Beef up our line. Excited. We got Dallas this week. Big game. Big game for Brock.
Huge game all over. What
I think it's more of a bigger game probably for Dallas and Dak than actually since Brock's already beaten him once at least.
yeah,
So
I'm sure they want that playoff revenge pretty
yeah.
bad. Even though they don't have Zeke and they're looking pretty good. I haven't seen anything, and I've tried to stay away from social media as far as talking smack about Dallas. So, all right, we are going to start with mountain visits. We're going to wrap up what we talked about last week, which was Cobb and Babe Ruth. And Jeff, what do you got for mountain visits?
Yeah, we were kind of talking about averages last week. Who hit, Ty Cobb hit 400, I think it was like 4 or 5 straight seasons. No one's done it. Actually, I don't even know when was it. Ted Williams was the last one, I believe, or
Ted Williams
I don't
hit
know what
406
year.
in 1941.
There you go. I know George Brett got close in like 81 or 82. I was wondering about Ichiro. I mentioned Ichiro. He hit 372 in 2004. Was his highest. That's pretty good, man. 352 in 2009, 351 in 2007, and 350 in his rookie and MVP year of 2001. Just a few standout years for him. So yeah, 372. That's nothing to shy about, man. That's pretty impressive, especially in today's game.
Not bad at all. And he
Um,
finished with a 311 average.
yeah,
No.
amazing.
So,
Look at those first 10 years. It's just I was looking at his baseball reference page. It really stands out how many hits and the average just off the charts.
he hit over 200. He had over 200 hits for those
Yep.
10 years.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
You got anything else from on visits?
That's really all I got. What do you got? Hit me
The
with it.
Yankees had 18 World Series titles before 1960.
Wow. How many do they have now? 25?
27.
27.
27. The last title was in 2009.
Was it A-Rod year, right?
That was an A-Rod year, but that was not the slap year. The slap year was
Right.
earlier. Cobb was nominated for one award with the Chicago Film Critic Association. Tommy Lee Jones was nominated for Best Actor. I had also looked up highest batting averages over the last 10 years. DJ
Let's see.
LeMahieu,
Let's see. Hold
yeah,
on. Of the last 10 years, like total?
of the last single seasons over the last 10
Single
years.
season. Man. I'm trying to even think who hits a lot of like singles, and I want to say like Rizzo. Didn't he hit 330? He probably got up there. He got high, no?
I stuck with guys over 360 because that was
Dang.
what we were looking at. Yeah.
For the season?
For the season, DJ LeMahieu in 2020 hit 364.
That doesn't count. That was only 60 games.
Joe Mauer hit 365 in 2009.
Joe Mauer. Yeah, that's a good one.
And Chipper Jones hit 364 in 2008.
No, nice. Good for Chipper.
One of his last fully healthy years.
Yeah, Joe Mauer is so good. That guy was really good.
Just clutch, him and Justin Morneau. The heaviest bat I looked at, who swung the heaviest bat, Babe Ruth used a 46-ounce bat in 1927 when he hit 60 home runs. Julio Franco and Mo Vaughn both regularly used 36-ounce bats.
Oh, wow.
And Bryce Harper uses a 47-ounce bat in batting practice.
Does he really? Wow.
No.
He's probably hitting tanks all during batting practice and comes up and swings a 30-something.
Yeah.
Like feels like a freaking feather in his hand, huh?
And his swing is just so violent that
it is.
You don't want to... If he misses, he misses. But when he makes contact, that ball is flying.
Yeah.
We talked about Carl Hubble. The All-Star game was 1934. He struck out Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. Those were the 5 Hall of Famers.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. I don't know Joe Cronin. I don't really know that name, but those other ones, that's impressive.
There's a family on Franklin's baseball team, and their last name's Cronin, and I believe it's the gentleman's great uncle.
Oh,
I think we had talked about that, or maybe not. I think my story's mixed up, but he said there's no relation. But I love that Cronin is a Red Sox Hall of Famer. Shohei's career WAR is 34.7, so
okay.
he's still got a ways to go.
He
His
does have a way to
pitching
go.
his pitching numbers aren't as good as it could be, and his hitting numbers are really good, but he got hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt a lot his first few years.
Right.
And
Benjamin Lockwood was played by James Cromwell. He was also in LA Confidential. He was in The Green Mile. He was Lieutenant Stacy in Spider-Man 3. That was the one with Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
He was in The Longest Yard remake. And of course, he was in The Babe and Babe.
The Babe and Babe.
And Babe, Pig in the City.
Of course, can't forget Pig in the City.
Um,
Which I believe was nominated for an Academy Award. Babe.
I'm
Babe,
sure,
not
yeah,
the second
Babe.
one. Babe. I feel like it was very highly acclaimed. I never saw it myself, but I remember it being highly acclaimed when it came out.
So the Baltimore Orioles, St. Louis Browns connection. The last year in St. Louis was 53. First year in Baltimore was 54. They went 54 and 100. Now, the Orioles actually began in 1901 as the Milwaukee Brewers, lasting
really?
1 year in Wisconsin before starting a 50-year stay in St. Louis. And this just goes, I'm looking at this website called thisgreatgame.com and Baltimore Orioles history. But there's nothing about Baltimore baseball before before 1954. So
interesting.
No.
They never heard about it. Somebody just rolled up with the truck with, hey, we got a baseball team. They're like, what's baseball? What is this sport you're talking about?
Ooh, baseball.
What is this game? We play football around here, son. Johnny U.
Football. Johnny Utah. All right. There we go. There's my question for next week. We're going to start our season 2 with The Program. Released in 1993, starring James Caan, Holly Berry, Christy Swanson, Craig Sheffer, Omar Epps, Dwayne Davis, Andrew Berniaski,
Joey Lauren
Adams.
Everyone.
This movie, top to bottom, had a cast to be. It was like Ocean's 11. What are we doing here? Jeff, this movie had football. I think in the baseball movies, we were looking for if there was baseball being played, and then you look at it and you go, wow, there's actual football.
Imagine that.
You can't, I don't think you can make a football movie without football being played. What do you remember about this movie when you first saw it, and how was it held up?
Yeah, I feel like I saw this movie. I don't know if it was in the theaters or not, or like when it came out on VHS, but I must have seen it in theaters because I feel like I remember seeing the scene that was cut out where they're in the middle of the street, lying in the middle of the cars. Like I feel like I remember seeing that in the theaters, and then so I must have seen it in theater. I must have seen it in theaters then. I remember this movie being good. I remember my dad really liking this movie. He played a little college football. I think he only played for like 1 year, and then he got kicked out of school because he partied too much. But stopped going to school, stopped going to class. But he went to Davis, and he was like the running back for I think 1 year. But he was like, "Yeah, this is great. That's what he's into." I remember liking it because he liked it. Seeing it now, it's really good. I feel like this has a really good depiction. I mean, I didn't play college ball. I don't know, so I can only go off of like what I could imagine it being like and stories that I've heard. But I mean, it seems pretty legit, man. Like the way the stuff that happens behind the scenes with Latimer and like, okay, we're gonna put you on IR. We're gonna say you have a hamstring to cover up the steroid issue, like things like that. And like, his daughter dating the backup QB and she gets kicked out, but they let the QB back in, the backup because they need somebody to play quarterback because Kane went to rehab. It's just the little things like that I think were really good. They're kind of insightful for people who don't really know anything about college football. I think that was a really good look into the goings and goings ons behind the scenes of what it takes to be a powerhouse type of school like they were. trying to keep that relevance going. I think they mentioned had a couple down years after being pretty dominant. And trying to keep that level of dominance, keep that level of being at the top of the game in the college football landscape. I think it was a really good look at it. I was really, really well done. The acting was pretty good. They're kind of some of the younger. You could tell it was kind of their first few movies there. It was a little rough. Christy Swanson was a little rough. But no, good overall. The football scenes were pretty good. I felt like Craig Schaefer could passable, throwing the ball. There's a couple times it was a little wonky, but although maybe it makes me wonder if like the times where he could throw it really well, it was like maybe that was somebody else. You couldn't really tell, but
Stunt double.
yeah, but Omar Epps, much better football player than baseball player.
Agreed.
So, yeah,
Agreed.
I thought this is a really, really well done movie, made by the same guy who did Major League, and I think he went a little more, a little darker, a little more serious than the Major League movies. Really more of an in-depth look and a little just like I said, a little darker, a little more serious, a little more gritty than like they're obviously Major League 2 was terrible and slapsticky. But the first one, I think the first one they tried to get a little that way, but it still had to make it a comedy. And this one, the program is not going to be mistaken for a comedy at all. So really liked it. Thought it was really good. It's better than what I remember seeing when I was when did this movie come out? 93, 94? 93. So yeah, I was probably 14. So lot better than what I remember, and it made me wonder why I didn't go back and watch this in the past 30 years, so 25 years. So yeah. Well, yeah. What's your thoughts?
If you haven't taken a look at it, there is that interview with Dwayne Davis where he was talking about the scene where the kids are laying in the street, or it's Craig Sheffer's laying in the street and cars are going past him, and that was a Midwest thing that they were doing at that time. He said that Disney, who owned the rights to that film at the time, pulled it because it was giving kids the perception of doing something that could get them hurt. And he talked about that.
Somebody did. I think somebody did it and then died. I feel like I remember that back in the day. I'll look that up for next week. But I feel like some kids saw the movie and were like, oh, cool, let's do that. And then they died.
So they must have pulled it and then re-released it.
Yeah, it wasn't. That scene was not in the DVD that I got. So that scene was not in the movie that I saw. So
I was able to find it on YouTube as the edited version, and I did understand where he was coming from because Dwayne did tell me in our interview that's available on Spotify and on YouTube about that scene. And everything that goes into this movie, when I had having that chance to sit down with him and talking with Dwayne about his character, Alvin Mack, and how he got along with people, and James Caan, who recently passed away, and just everything that went into this movie and how old he was when he filmed this movie. There's a lot of stuff. I love this movie. This is probably one of my, I think with baseball movies and football movies, they're a different echelon because the acting in football movies, you have to be able to play football. Yeah. We'll look next week at a couple of the movies we're going to talk about, and even when we start talking about Remember the Titans, you have to be able to play football. You have to have some sort of athletic ability. You cannot just be an actor. You
have to have like an athletic build to be able to run and play that part. Yeah, no, 100%. Like you can't just throw anybody with some chicken legs and not a good frame on them. You're gonna look puny, and you put I don't know, Danny DeVito in a football uniform. That's not gonna work.
You're gonna look like the Little Giants. Can't say with this thing on.
Fumble Rooski.
There was so many things in this movie that I loved. The football carrying on campus. If I see a kid walking around campus, walking around anywhere campus, you won't find me on high schools that much, but if there's kids that are walking around, it's like, oh, you're fumbling, like carry the ball around, protect it. Have you ever seen the program? No.
Of course not.
Talking about Latimer gaining 35 pounds and an attitude over the summer.
That dude was nuts, dude. That was crazy. Shooting steroids into his ass, and
God,
that was great. He had a really good line too, and they were kind of talking about what football means to them, and he's like, "Football is like a battle. We're going to war." It's like, yeah, dude, that's it is, man. It's a violent game, a violent sport, and is battle. It's a war of attrition, and who can last long for 60 minutes. So I like that. That was a good what do you call it? Good line there. Good scene where they kind of went around to everybody. Jefferson, the Omar Epps character. He's like, he mentioned like, football has saved him from being just another statistic. It saved him from the streets. It saved him from being in a gang, being shot. And it provided him an opportunity to go to college. And what I really liked about his character was like, he wanted to actually learn while he was there. Like he really did. He was there to play football originally, but then he realized like, oh yeah, I need to study and I need to get good grades or passable grades so I can become something in the future, as opposed to the Alvin Mack character. He was like, all you need to know is how to sign your NFL contract.
Sign an NFL contract.
Right. And he's like, I think they mentioned, he couldn't read above a fourth grade level, has the injury and is done with football. And like, he's screwed, I mean, hopefully he can go back, the sequel shows him going back to college maybe and getting his degree, but I mean, he put everything he had into football and, screw the studies. I don't need to study. I can tackle. This is what I'm going to do. And then once that opportunity's gone, like he's got nothing. Like he doesn't have any education. I don't know what type of background. I didn't really mention his background, but I'm sure he didn't come from a great background. And, so, I like that really contrast in the two players there. One that was really, they're both amazing football players with a future ahead of them. And one putting in the time to actually learn other skills, while the other one was just like, no, this is the only skill. I'm putting all my eggs in the basket. So really like that contrast between those two characters.
One of the things that I really liked Omar Epps in this movie too, especially the contrast in Major League 2 and the program. When he goes skating with Halle Berry.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I saw this in Rocky. Rocky didn't skate in that movie. Rocky was walking and Adrian was skating.
And she was skating, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I just watched those movies. I don't know what got into me, but I wanted to watch the Rocky movies before we started the podcast a couple months ago. And I was like, there's no way. Did see Bo Schembechler, the former Michigan and Ohio State coach, in the booth. I didn't think that was him. Yeah, that was him.
I think that was him too.
Dwayne didn't want to reenact the scene where he breaks his leg because he had that same injury in college. And that was not really something. Yeah, I had read that on IMDb. So when he gets hurt, he breaks his leg. And PTSD
there.
Yeah, that's what happened to him. So he played football at the University of Missouri. And that was something I didn't ask him, but I think he had talked about it where people would come up to him like, oh, how's your leg? How's your leg? And I remember James Caan's character, coach, he goes, best damn football player I ever coached. Best damn defensive player I ever coached.
Best defensive player, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And you could go on and on about the movies that these guys are in. And James Caan is always going to be Sonny Corleone. Christy Swanson will forever be Buffy, the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Craig Schaefer in A River Runs Through It as the older brother of Brad Pitt is absolutely amazing. I mean, these two movies that he does, he's so much younger in this movie, but he's the narrator for A River Runs Through It. Have you seen that one?
I have. It's been a while, but yeah, I remember him being in that. Yeah, I remember of that movie. Craig Schaefer's great. He's great in this movie. He really plays Joe Kane, with that, vulnerability, with the demons that he has to fight, with his dad just not really caring, never once wanting to see him, and just carrying that kind of baggage around, and what leads him to make, just poor decisions off the football field. And at the end, his dad doesn't show up, and he kind of, you can see in it, he comes to terms with, okay, that's it then. It's really heartbreaking. A tragic kind of story, up and down story there for Kane. Starts at the top, going through Heisman candidacy and a campaign, which I thought was really a cool scene. At kind of the beginning where they were like, hey, this is how we're going to do it. Again, another insight to college football. And like, you can totally see that happening with like Caleb Williams or something like that, or one of these guys, Bo Nix. Like, okay, how are we going to run your campaign? You're up for Heisman. Like, we want to push this, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to put you here. We're going to put you on this cover. Oh, that was really cool. It's just, like I said, little things like that, showing us behind the scenes workings of what it goes. Because otherwise, you don't really know. Don't know anybody who played that was ever nominated for a Heisman. I don't know anybody, so I can't really talk to them about it. So this is kind of the closest thing you get.
Yeah,
really appreciate those type of scenes.
I don't really think that we should discuss a top 10. I think we should talk favorites, and if we liked it, if we didn't like it, if it's a movie we'll revisit. because baseball movies for me, that was easy because we've seen those movies so many times, because there's so many of them that are timeless. There are so many football movies that could encompass so many different things
Yeah,
that, in my personal opinion, I this is a favorite movie of mine, just based on the fact that it's actual football.
yeah.
In everything that it talks about, everything that it is about, and being able to understand football in a different light because of this movie. Was there anything about this movie you didn't like?
I didn't like. I wasn't a big fan of Christy Swanson. I didn't think her character was very. I felt the love story again, a little rushed. Seemed like she was like breaking. She was like breaking down, crying when she was hitting those balls. I'm like, really? Like you're breaking down, crying while you're just hitting tennis balls? Really? That was kind of lame. Um,
I liked
you
her as
know,
a brunette.
yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm trying to think of what was bad about it. I don't know. I thought it was a really, really well done movie. I don't really have much bad to say about it. The ups and downs of each character. Every story got a pretty good arc. Everybody got a pretty good resolution. From the Omar Epps character to his, was it the Griffiths, Ray Griffith, the starting tailback, and then he becomes a fullback, and then misses the block on purpose, and then makes the block. Great, and kind of seeds to that, and that to Halle Berry. I didn't, the Halle Berry character was fine too. I think she's like acting way better than everybody else in this movie. Like she was like putting on a show for all these amateurs, kind of. But
She's a good
no,
add-on.
she's great. I mean, I don't really have much bad to say about this movie. I thought one thing I thought was kind of funny though. I don't know if you picked up. I noticed they were like, "Okay, tomorrow we're having Pride Night." I was like, "Pride Night? Oh, they're pretty progressive back in the day." I was like, "Oh no, School Pride Night." I think we say Pride Night, 2023. It's a lot different meaning than it was in 1993. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Completely
School
different
Pride,
meaning.
not
Not
LGBTQ Pride. Yeah,
no.
I was like, oh shit. So no, I don't really have much bad to say about it. I thought it was, like I said, it was a really, really well done movie. James Caan is great and everything. I like the little thing about the hurt or injured. Are you hurt or are you injured? Like, what's the difference? Hurt, you can play hurt, you can't play injured. I tell that to my kids all the time. Are you hurt or are you injured? Like if you're hurt, you can play. Like my daughter hurt her finger. I'm like, well, you can still play soccer then because your foot's not injured.
Nope.
So yeah, no, I don't really have much bad to say about this movie. I could have been long. Let's make it longer so I can see more.
Let's go with a sequel. 30 years
There you go.
later, the program
Yeah,
reunited.
and I like
Uh,
how at the end they just done, and then they go right back to the recruiting trail. Like almost like the movie starts right over again. Like you just the very end scene of him and the coaches walking out, hitting the recruiting trail. Like I said, you can just start it right back over again. That movie start from the beginning and almost play it back with different characters. So
I did
really
like
good.
that this movie was filmed in South Carolina at Duke with actual football players. Of course, get the chance, go back and listen to that interview. What Dwayne talks about in this movie, I'm an all pro. Hit me like, don't hit me with everything you got. Let me run through you. Stuff like
Yeah,
that. I really like the action in this movie. It was an action. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a comedy, action drama.
yeah, yeah. Definitely
Um,
not comedy.
no, we are going to move on to Remember the Titans, released in 2000, based on the 1971 true story.
That's right.
Jeff,
The Titans.
this
Such a good
movie,
movie. I mean, this movie's really good. I'm sorry. I know it's a Disney movie and it's super produced and with the music and the gives you all the feels, but I think it's a really good movie. The football scenes are decent enough. I think there's actually one scene where they pick up the ball and run the wrong way. I think in this
yes,
movie,
yes, there
there
was.
is, right. You notice
Yeah.
that too, right? I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like,
Who's
wait, you're
right?
supposed to go the other way with the
Yeah.
fumble.
But other than that, I thought it was okay. I wish the scenes were a little bit better. But this was, I mean, Denzel. I mean, just the peak of his powers. I think right then, right. I mean, after this thing came Training Day, or somewhere around there. But Denzel is just amazing in this movie. Every scene he's in is just commands the screen. He's clearly at the top of his game at this point. Was his year 2000? Acting circles around everyone in this movie. Will Patton, he's just got that voice that just, when he's talking to giving a speech at the, about the defensive players, they will remember us. They will remember the Titans. You just get the feels, man. He's just got that voice that makes you want to run through a wall for him. So really love this movie. Always liked this movie. Seen it a bunch of times. Watched it with my daughter again. She really, it's interesting. You say 1971 is when this movie took place, and dude, that's not that long ago. You know what I mean?
It doesn't feel like it.
No, integration was in 1954. Brown versus Topeka Board of Education, when they integrated schools. I mean, that's 17 years later, man. This Alexandria, Virginia, 17 years it took them to get to this point. I mean, that's 8 years before I was born that this happened. Even my daughter was like, wait, this is in the 70s when this happened? She thought it was, back in the 50s or, early 60s. So I told her, like, yeah, babe, this is, look, it didn't just happen overnight, the integration. It didn't just like, oh, we're ruling for this. Now everybody just do it and everything's fine. Like, it wasn't like that. Obviously, you can see 17 years to make it to freaking Virginia. So really good. It was a good movie. It was a good football movie. And it was a good, just like about race relations during that time, and not even race relations, and just overcoming obstacles and difficulties and oppression in your way for everyone in this movie, really. What about you?
Yeah, I was a big fan of it. This was the first time that I watched it all the way through. I don't know why I never watched it, but
Really?
I turned it on. When did I watch it? I watched it the other night, and I started
it's an easy
it.
one to like flip on, like, oh, hey, it's there, it's already started. It's easy to just put it on. You kind of can get the gist of it. Yeah, I can see that.
But I didn't give it a chance at first. Not this time. This time it was one of those movies where I thought to myself, I don't want to turn this off. Like, I don't want to revisit this. I want to continue watching this because I want to see how it ends. I want to see the integration part. For me, that's huge. How these kids, they come together. I really like Denzel Washington. I really like Donald Faison's character, of course, Ethan Suplee, Ryan Hurst. You know him from one of my favorite movies, a war movie, Saving Private Ryan. When Tom Hanks is looking for excuse me, have you seen Ryan, Ryan? And he goes, hey, over here. You're gonna have to speak a little louder, sir. A grenade ran off right next to my ear.
Oh,
that guy. That's him.
Oh,
yes.
How funny. I haven't seen that movie so long. I think of Ryan Hurst from Sons of Anarchy. That's where I remember him from.
That's the picture. Opie. That's the picture that is on Google right now. But he was also
we love you, Opie. Such a horrific death in that show.
It doesn't have whatever. He's also in The Walking Dead. He's also in SWAT.
Yeah, he was in Walking Dead. That's right.
But to me, that's really it that I know him from, because I've seen Saving Private Ryan so many times. I really like the soundtrack to this movie. It was very 70s-esque, very soulful, very, very hook, line, and sinker. Very, of course, very Disney movie-ish.
Oh yeah. Oh, this Disney movie through and through. Correct.
There was no negativity. It could have been a little bit. I feel like there could have been a little bit more on the lines of 42, as far as the integration is concerned. Because
more yelling from the sidelines, and it was more action based. I feel like, instead of word based like 42 was. It was the actions they were doing on the field and to them, instead of straight up calling them bad names to their face or yelling horrible chants. I can see that. Yeah.
And you could see that at the beginning of the movie, and I thought it was going to get worse. I legitimately thought that this is just the start of it. This isn't gonna be the low point of it. This is just how much worse it gets. And then you got the referee who's throwing flags just to throw flags, and then you've got the parents who are yelling like, I don't want my kids integrating with African American people, with Black people. One thing that I did look up was all the blind hate, just like 42, all the blind hate. I was watching this. Nichelle was sitting on the couch with me. We were watching it together, and she was doing something else. She's like, I can't stomach this, because of course we were raised in environments where we're completely integrated. We didn't know any different, I don't
Mhm.
look at you differently
Absolutely.
based on that. Yeah, you are different, but there's nothing that makes me want to treat you differently. You treat me differently, I treat you differently. That's really it. Um, I really like that conversation between Gary and Julius, where the attitude reflects leadership. You know,
Yeah.
we
Captain.
follow, yeah, right. We follow our leader. If you want to be the leader, then lead us, show us. Well, you're missing blocks. I'm looking out for me. I'm not doing anything that I don't see anybody else doing. I am looking out for me.
Yeah.
And to me, that's huge. That it was such a good timepiece. It was such a good reflection on what happened. The narrator, coach's daughter,
Yeah.
she
Coach
did
daughter
such a good
Hayden.
job. Yeah. And then of course all the negativity where they first move in to the neighborhood, and it's like, oh, they're moving in, look at all the people they're bringing in. You've
Yeah.
got
How many
the
people they
crowd
got
of
there? Yeah.
you've got the crowd of black people that are supporting them, and then at the end of the movie, right when Gary gets hit by the truck, right before that, everybody's cheering for them. It's like,
Yeah.
thank you, coach,
Yep.
thank you for bringing pride back to Alexandria. I really like the Gettysburg scene where he's like, these people fought over something that we are still fighting over.
Yep.
This was the Civil War. The
Good
Civil War
thing.
happened in what, 1860?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Still.
are
Yeah.
still fighting about it,
100 years, 110 years later there, right? Yeah.
right? And 50 years later, we're still fighting over it.
It's insane.
I don't excuse me. I don't understand it. I don't understand how we are not understanding that everybody is here for a reason.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a really good testament, a really good showing of like what the human spirit can do and what it means to overcome things, not just the racial barrier. Everyone had to overcome something, I feel like, in this movie. Obviously the main issues of race and integrating into the schools and the football team, but even the Ethan Suplee character, overcoming his self-imposed white trashness. He came into it thinking he's dumb, he's stupid, he's never going to amount to anything. The coach took it upon himself to bring me your grades, we'll get you there, and he did, and he had to overcome that. That's great to see. Just things like that. The what's his name? The girlfriend. She overcame her biases. Didn't shake Julius's hand at the beginning, and then at the end, she shakes his hand and goes up and like formally introduces herself. Like she
At
overcame
the
her bias.
championship game that she told Gary that she was going to be at.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Um,
it was great seeing that everybody kind of overcoming, you know, obviously, like I said, the biggest obstacle, obviously the race division, but everybody overcoming personal things too in this movie that brings them to be and makes them a better person, makes them a man, and makes them a better person going forward by being part of this team, by being coached by this man, this Herman Boone, who instilled a sense of pride in them and a sense of fight and a sense of unity and togetherness that they weren't finding elsewhere. It was really good. Denzel was amazing in it. My son was watching this with me too, and he's like, when they get on the bus and everything they're going, he's like, "Dad, is this high school or college?" I'm like, "This is high school." He's like, "Dang, does they really like this?" I was like, "I don't know, man. I didn't play high school football. I don't know what it was like back then. Maybe it was a little more rough, but it did seem more like collegey." I would say if there was one little thing like taking them on a bus and everything and going, away for probably like a week or so. That was kind of funny. Um, but I was reading though that bus where they got on and they were kind of segregated themselves. I heard that was real, and that the Herman made them all come off and switch buses, and everybody has to join together. I heard that was actually based on a real event that actually happened. That's
good,
kind of a cool thing to
good.
throw in there. Yeah,
I really like that. I really like
that was a
how
really cool scene where he, who's your daddy? Who's your mom over there? You don't got no mama when you go up there. And who's your daddy? And he made him say it. That's such a badass. That's such a badass scene by Denzel, dude.
that's such a
Getting this
Denzel
kid,
thing to do.
punking this 17, 18-year-old kid, just who's the star linebacker, the All-American, just putting him in his place right there, just making him call him his daddy. It was just amazing scene. Love that scene. It's so great. Denzel is so good in that.
Aside from it being a Disney movie, was there anything about this movie that you did not like?
Um I didn't like. I don't know. Like I said, I think what was the thing I was just saying? It wasn't. Like I said, I think the football scenes could have been a little bit better. They were a little chaotic. I think there's a lot of the scenes. There's a lot of flying body parts going everywhere. You couldn't. A lot of times you couldn't really tell where the action was. I feel like that could have been a little better. But yeah, no. I mean, like I said, it was a really, really good movie. I don't have many complaints about it. You know, I wished he didn't get into an accident. That sucked, but obviously that's real life. You know, I didn't want to see that. The poor guy. Jeez. But no, it was. I thought it was really, really well done, really well made, really well acted. Props to everybody, and I even like the little analytics there. If you know, did you catch the analytics at the end? Where Boone, he was like, "Hey, I went to the math teacher and told him to break down film and analyze all the plays from our opponents' last 2 years," and he broke down all these things, and he's like, "Oh, look, this is broken down by run, pass, this play, and this." Like, oh, look, early adoption of analytics there. I like that. That was kind of cool, and that was, I mean, I'm before even Moneyball, so
Long
I like that.
before Bill
Yeah,
Walsh.
I thought that was kind of cool. Little using analytics and things at your disposal. Yeah. Oh, the quote, "Defense is desire." That was a cool quote because that is true. You got to put effort on defense, man. Defense wins championships.
I do have a couple quotes from this. So many wide receivers, it's like Monday Night Football. Before we reach for hate, we remember the Titans. Trust the soul, not the skin. And the Titans ruled over this universe with absolute power.
Nice.
They were bigger than gods. And the last thing, this one goes back to 42, is the best player will play and the color won't matter.
There you go.
Did not matter. I loved that Ryan Gosling, his character, he's like, "Coach, I can't get him.
I can't keep up with him. Yeah.
I can't. Let me get Petey." And he goes and talks to him, and you could just see Donald Faison, our guy Turk from Scrubs.
Merc.
And
call Turk, get Turk.
And just how ecstatic he is. And he's like, "I got him." And he walks away from offense because he can't hang on to the football, and he goes to play defense. I really like the controversial, not necessarily controversial, but the clashing between Denzel's character and Will's character.
Yeah,
that was huge. Clash of the Titans. Look at that. I see you.
like
there was one connection that I had between the program and Remember the Titans. Cain and Abel. I forget where that was in this movie, but
noticed that too. Yeah. I forgot they said at the end. Yeah, because he was talking about. What was he talking about? It was Herman. He was talking about that his brothers killed his brother, right? Abel. Cain killed Abel. Something like that. Yeah.
Cain killed Abel. Yeah.
I counted that too. I didn't write it down, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know exactly, but I remember that part thinking that too. I was like, oh, look, Cain.
No. And then the youngest of that made up story that he had 12 brothers and sisters, and I was the youngest, and they all looked up to me like, "Wait,
yeah,
what?" They looked up to you. You're the baby.
Yeah.
All right, that is a wrap for episode 1 of our football discussion. Next week, we're going to talk about Varsity Blues with good old Dawson, James Vanderbeek, Paul Walker, and Necessary Roughness.
Yes, with Scott Bakula, Sinbad, Kathy Ireland.
Ooh, Kathy Ireland.
Hector Elizondo.
I haven't seen.
and of course,
Dwayne Davis. I haven't seen. That'll be a first for me with Necessary Roughness. I like this.
All right. Jason Bateman is in it. You'll see a lot of you like, oh, dang.
Jason Bateman. All right.
Jason Bateman is in this too. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Cool. I'm excited.
Awesome.
Excited to kick off season 2.
Me too. Cool.